What about drugs? That's a question that has to be asked because it's asked about athletes, it's asked about building up muscles. Could you build up that kind of muscle tone that you have, or musculature that you have, without the use of drugs?
Certainly. Drugs don't make champions. I mean, if all you have to do is take a drug and become a champion, there'd be a lot of champions sitting right here, you know. It's not that easy. Something comes from within that makes a champion. I mean, a lot of athletes are involved in steroid therapy. And I often speak very honest about it, and I admit the fact that before major events, I do utilize that, but by no means do drugs make champions. It's something else that creates a championship body.
But without...
So, you know, what I want to talk about today is guys like Tom Platz back in the day. You know, Tom Platz, you know, as you see him on his body, he was active when he did this interview with with BBC, and he was really active, and he was, you know, not retired, and it was probably back in the 70s. And while he was active in his bodybuilding career, he admitted live on BBC, which is a huge television channel, that he used steroids. Of course, it is, you know, a long time ago, so he used steroids. He didn't, you know, he don't, you know, use it right now, I think. But, you know, that's not the thing I want to talk about. I just want to talk about, do you think bodybuilders should admit that they take steroids? You know, of course, nowadays, you know, we have more and more bodybuilders admitting taking steroids, but I talk about the IFBB pros, you know, who are doing contests where, you know, steroids are, you know, officially they are not allowed, but, you know, in the practice everybody uses them, and not only steroids nowadays, GH, insulin, Synthol, and T3, T4, you know, a lot of substitutes, you know, a lot of things that I don't even know, besides steroids, which they used back then in the time of, you know, Tom Platz. So today they not only use a bigger amount of that steroids, but on top of that they use much more different medicals, which make them even bigger. You know, but you know, you don't see Kai Green admitting that he used steroids. You don't see Philippe admitting using steroids. You know, while they are active. Of course, after the career, when everything's over, it's more easy to say that. And you know, in bodybuilding, especially today, back then they weren't as big as today. You know, their bodies were kind of natural still. But today, you know, they are much more bigger. They are much more bigger. You know, when you look at Phil Heath, they are much bigger. When you look at Kai Green, they are much bigger. And you know, like for example, look at Phil Heath, much bigger, man. Much bigger. Can't compare him to the 70s guys. So what I want to say is, it's more obvious than ever that they take something, of course, right? So should they just admit it? You know, the active pros, the reigning champs, should they admit to take steroids? You know, for the public when they have interviews or when they get asked about, or do you think that it is so obvious that everybody knows that they are on the juice? So because nobody can tell me that this guy is natural. Of course it's obvious, but you know, in the mainstream there are still a lot of question about this. A lot of question. Would you say that, you know, when guys like Phil, Kai, Sean, Dennis would admit that they take steroids for the public, for the mainstream, it would be a great thing, it would make them more sympathetic? Or do you say that they would, you know, they would make some bad points and they would just, you know, make young people take steroids Or what do you think? Or do you think they should talk openly about it? Because young people, young guys shouldn't get an illusion about something they will never reach because of that edge these athletes have, besides their crazy genetics, of course. And this is no hate video against Phil Heath or any of these guys. They are champions, of course. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. That's what up. My opinion is that, I think when a guy like Phil Wills admits he maybe gets problems with the IFBB Federation, after their career they can do it, I think, for free because they're on their own, but while they're active they will probably have problems with the IFBB, with their federation, where they compete with their sponsors maybe. But guys like Phil or Kai have their own supplement companies, but most of them haven't. So when they would admit it, it would be that the supplement companies would sell less because the fans would know that he's not that big because of that whey protein he advertises, but he's big because of that 10 IU's GH he takes daily, or more or less. You know what I mean? You know what the point is. Your opinion interests me a lot. Your opinion really interests me. Just give it a comment, subscribe me, like it. Stay tuned.